Hey, what's up, guys? Pete Alonso here from the New York Mets, and I'm here with Alfred. And I just want to say thank you so much to all you guys for listening to the Metropolitan Report. It's a really awesome show. You got some great insight on Mets baseball, and yeah, it's a great place where Mets baseball is talked about, and we got a lot of really fun stuff coming up this year. And a lot of really great things coming from this team in the clubhouse, and I'm really excited to keep the ball rolling. And it's been such a fun season, and I'm really thankful for everybody coming out to the ballpark and supporting us, and it's just been absolutely tremendous. So thank everybody for listening to the Metropolitan Report, and Alfred, keep doing your thing, and as always, LFGM.
Hey, everybody, it's Alfred Parsart Jr. back with another edition of the Metropolitan Report. And on today's report, we're going to talk about all the latest injuries in camp, from Nick Madrigal to starting pitcher Sean Manaea. So strap in for the next couple of minutes as we will discuss what's been going on in camp lately. Of course, the big news, the Mets, they are hampered with injuries. The Mets starting rotation was already in flux with the Frankie Montas injury, which we spoke about in episode 1 for our 2025 season coverage. But now Sean Manaea is hurt. Of course, Manaea was the Mets' top pitcher a season ago. Sean Manaea had that incredible Cinderella run of just great starts in the latter half of 2024 and was a key piece of the Mets' 2024 season. A big reason why the Mets down the stretch got that wild card spot was because of the pitching of Sean Manaea. So this injury definitely a blow. Manaea again was an integral cog in the machine, if you will, especially with Kodai Senga being hurt. Manaea, for those of you who do not know, has a strained oblique. He's going to be shut down for about 2 to 3 weeks. So his injury is not as bad as Frankie Montas's, where Montas is shut down for 6 to 8 weeks. But again, Manaea, who had a strong back half of 2024, he's going to be shut down for 2 to 3 weeks. So that begs the question, who is going to get the final two rotation spots? We said on our first edition of the Metropolitan Report for this season that, there were four locks. It was Manaea, Senga, David Peterson, and Clay Holmes. And now there are two spots opening up with Manaea and Montas both out. Of course, competing for those final spots, again, Tylor Megill, who has been a Met since 2021. Also, Griffin Canning, who was acquired from the Los Angeles Angels, and Paul Blackburn. Out of these three, I think the Mets should roll Tylor Megill, number one, because Megill has the most tenure out of the three in the organization. We already know what Megill has to work with. Megill, even at one point, was a Mets opening day starter a couple of seasons ago. Megill very inconsistent, but he can eat up innings. If you need 5, possibly 6 innings, Megill is your man. Between Griffin Canning and Paul Blackburn, it's a mixed bag, really. Griffin Canning has never been the greatest pitcher to ever start a Major League Baseball game. For those of you familiar with Griffin Canning, has a career ERA slightly around 5, below 4, but about 5. And Paul Blackburn, who spent all of his career prior to last season with the Athletics organization, was a workhorse for them, a 2022 All-Star, but he had an injury-hampered season last season. 3 quality starts out of the 5 that he pitched. 3 out of 5 is not bad. And Blackburn actually made his spring debut yesterday against the Miami Marlins. That game is not televised, so we do not have any highlights for you at this time. But in the one inning that he did pitch, Blackburn looked good. He got out of the inning. He had a 1-2-3 inning against the Marlins. He started the game, had a 1-2-3 first inning on 7 pitches, inducing 2 groundouts. So not bad, but again, that's a small sample size. His season was shut down last season because he had a cerebral spinal fluid leak last season. So he had fluid leaking out of his spinal cord, which is a nasty injury even to think about. But also prior to that, again, he started the season last season hurt. He's starting this season in recovery. If it was up to me and I'm Mendoza, this is my new updated projected starting rotation. Of course, Kodai Senga is going to be the number one. With Manaea gone, I'm going to move up Clay Holmes to number two. Clay Holmes has looked very, very good this spring. Of course, we saw what he did last Saturday against the Houston Astros and still continuing to look sharp in his live BPs and bullpen sessions. Then you got to go David Peterson, who really had a great 2024, had a great showing last season. I have no issue with David Peterson, number three. And if I'm going to fill out the rotation, honestly, this is what I'm going to do. I would have Tyler McGill be the number four, and I would have Griffin Canning be the number five, and I would have Paul Blackburn start the season in Syracuse. Again, coming off of an injury-riddled season, only 5 starts last season, and you don't know what this guy is going to look like to start the season. Rather have him go get some reps in Syracuse rather than try to figure things out at the big league level. There are big expectations for this Mets ball club this year, and I quite frankly don't think that on-the-job training or on-the-job recovery is appropriate for a team that wants to contend this season. Have Blackburn show what he's got pitching in Syracuse, and take it from there. If he looks good in Syracuse, maybe pending an injury to anybody else, bring him up. Or if Canning or McGill happens to be a dud, bring him up. If you happen to DFA one of them or send one of them down and see what happens. But I do not think Paul Blackburn is ready for major league competition come April. So again, I'm going to go with Senga, Holmes, Peterson, McGill, and Canning as my updated projected opening day roster rotation. Also, in other news, as far as position players go, Nick Madrigal, the former Chicago White Sox and Chicago Cub, former first-round pick, is now injured. Over the weekend, he was injured trying to field a ground ball where he dove on his shoulder and ended up fracturing his shoulder. So a nasty injury. He was removed from that game right away. He was presumably going to be Francisco Lindor's backup. Of course, Madrigal is a utility man. He can play all over the infield, second, short, third. And he probably wasn't going to get a lot of opportunity to play in the regular season because Francisco Lindor has been known to be an Iron Man of sorts. Lindor usually will always play in every game. He'll play in both games of doubleheaders if there is a doubleheader. We've seen it in the past. Lindor also very durable. So Madrigal's chances would have been limited anyway in the regular season. Now, as to who is going to replace Madrigal on the roster, the Mets have options, and let's go through them. If they're David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza both said that they would deal with this internally. We've mentioned it before. Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves, his younger brother Luis Angel Acuna, is in camp battling for a big league roster spot. Again, he had a cup of coffee in the majors last season, hit over 300, strong showing. Ronnie Mauricio, who missed all of last season due to a torn ACL in the Dominican Winter League, he's in big league camp, also fighting for a backup infielder spot. Brett Beatty also in camp. Beatty, a third baseman, but there are rumors floating around that maybe he might be able to move to short and learn short. But my personal opinion is that none of those three guys should get the backup shortstop job. And here's why. I'll start with Acuna. Acuna is already chasing Jeff McNeil for the backup second baseman role. However, I don't believe he or Mauricio would benefit from sitting on the bench in the majors when they could be getting reps, playing significant innings, and getting significant time in the field and at the plate in Syracuse. Again, Syracuse would be a good place for Mauricio to get his feet back underneath him, especially because he tore an ACL. That's not an easy injury to recover from. We've seen athletes in many, many sports, not just baseball, basketball, football, that tear an ACL and they're never the same ever again. We got to see how he looks like in actual game competition situations. As far as Acuna, again, this is a guy with a lot of promise. This is a guy who is projected to be very high on the list of prospects and somebody that the Mets, when Francisco Lindor eventually gets to the tail end of that 10-year contract he signed in 2021, this guy might be the infielder of the future. I don't think it would benefit him either to just sit on the bench every day and just watch what's going on when he could be getting, again, reps in the field, reps at the plate down in Syracuse. He would be a starter everyday player in Syracuse, as would Mauricio. You don't want young kids to sit on the bench because A, they learn nothing that way. B, they're going to get cold. There's only but so much BP you can participate in, but there's nothing like real in-game situations. So I think Mauricio and Acuna should not be candidates to replace Madrigal on the major league roster. Also, Brett Baty at shortstop, that is a terrible, terrible decision. Brett Baty, the knock on him has been his defense. He can't even master third base, and he's played third base his whole professional career. If he can't master third, why teach him short? Don't like the idea. My personal opinion, the Mets should bring back my guy, Candelita, Mr. OMG himself, Jose Iglesias. Iglesias wants to return to the Mets. He's had interviews in the media where, even though he's currently a free agent and not a Met, he keeps referring to the Mets as we and us. Also, he stated he does want to return. Of course, you see the graphic underneath my face there. Iglesias, look what he did last season. Last season in 270 at-bats, Iglesias hit 337. 91 hits and 270 at-bats, 4 homers and 26 RBIs. Iglesias was a real cog in the machine last season and a real spark plug. He brought a lot of energy to this ball club, and his hit song OMG was the anthem for the Mets in the 2024 season. It would be very logical to bring him back. I know David Stearns has come out in the media the last couple of days and say that Jose Iglesias is not a fit, but I'm not buying that. There's some reason why they don't want to offer this guy even a one-year deal. I think that with Iglesias, again, he knows the organization. He was just here a year ago, and he was an integral piece of what happened in Queens. I think without Iglesias and his presence in the locker room and the vibe of that song, we don't make the playoffs last season. Iglesias, again, the guy hit 337 at a career resurgence. Why would you not want a guy who's hitting over 300 in a day and age where guys can't even hit 250 on average? Why would you not want him back? And also, if you sign Iglesias, Iglesias has no minor league options. Of course, he's a longtime veteran. So they would have to carry him on the roster. And the only way to get rid of him would be to DFA him, which that's better for the flexibility of Acuna and Mauricio. Acuna and Mauricio are two young guys. You can send them up and down as much as you like this year. Instead of having them sit on the bench watching from the dugout and not getting reps. This is a backup role. We're not talking about a starting second baseman, a starting shortstop. We are talking about the backup shortstop. Why not get Jose Iglesias? Put him on a one-year deal. I'm sure Jose will take the one-year deal to come back. The guy clearly wants to be here. I don't have an issue with Jose Iglesias at all. I think that would be the right move. A reunion with Candelita would be a good thing. Again, this is a guy who's a veteran. This spot that they're trying to fill is not a spot for an everyday type of player. This is, again, a guy on the bench. And what would you rather have on the bench? A veteran or a young kid who needs reps? Anybody who's saying, oh, yeah, well, Luis Angel Acuna and Ronnie Mauricio, we've got depth. No, they should be in Syracuse getting reps so they can stay warm. So God forbid some other injury happens on this team. Now we have pieces ready to go that can contribute every day. Instead of having a guy on the bench, he gets one at bat every 7 or 8 games. Real logical. But also, trade alert before we finish. Nick Madrigal placed on the 60-day injured list, and instead of going to get Candelita or some other infielder, the Mets make a trade for Alexander Canario. Canario was designated for assignment by the Cubs when they signed former Met Justin Turner to a deal. As you can see, Canario, I got mixed feelings about this. The only reason I have a mixed feelings is because we need an infielder, and we went out and got an outfielder to replace the injured backup infielder. What sense does that make? But on the other hand, this kid has some promise. He's had 2 cups of coffee through 2 seasons, 2023 and 2024. As you can see, Canario, a lifetime 286 hitter. Now take that with a grain of salt because it's a limited sample size. He's had 42 career at bats, but hitting 286, is that a sign? But then the other thing in my mind is he got traded for cash. Why would the Cubs let a promising outfielder go, especially in parts of 2 seasons, lifetime hitting 286? And then when we look at the landscape of the outfielders already on this roster, it's confusing why the Mets would add another one. Of course, Starling Marte, there's no secret he's older now. He's lost a little bit of a step, but he's on this roster. Of course, the prized signing of Juan Soto, also here, Brandon Nimmo. Jeff McNeil, who is the second baseman, has played many reps in the outfield as well. So it begs to question why the Mets would go out and get another outfielder. Of course, Jose Siri as well, and Tyrone Taylor and Jesse Winker. So the Mets are loaded for outfield positions. Canario will probably start the season in Syracuse. I don't understand how anybody would think that this kid is going to start the season in Flushing. Again, when you got Starling Marte, who might DH, which wouldn't be a bad idea. Brandon Nimmo, Jose Siri, a backup. Juan Soto, Tyrone Taylor, a backup, and Jesse Winker, and then Jose Azocar is fighting for a backup position. Again, he started the year last year with the San Diego Padres. Came over to the Mets late in the season for a brief spell. They've got him in camp. I believe he's going to start the season in Syracuse. But in a crowded outfield roster, they go and add Canario, which is kind of puzzling. But again, Canario, lifetime average of 286. That's very promising. So we'll see what happens. Lifetime OPS of 857 as well. Again, I don't see Canario touching Citi Field anytime soon, but I guess it's good to have depth. But my thing is, you go out and add an outfielder when you need an infielder. Canario's not a utility guy. He plays left field. So I don't quite understand the meaning of that move, but maybe the Mets know something that the average person like you and I don't. But, well, folks, that's been another Metropolitan Report. Once again, you can follow us at the socials listed in the description of this video. Again, my name is Alfred Parsard Jr., and I'll be seeing you in the next couple of days to cover more things in Mets spring training in 2025.